Good afternoon. Our guest today is Jamie Smith, who is the CEO and co-founder of Innovative Pet Lab. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Before we begin, I believe some congratulations are in order. Seems like you secured some pre-seed funding recently.
We did. It's very exciting. The first few years that we were coming to market and in market, we were self-funded and exploring this idea and really getting to the point where we felt confident raising funds. And so it's a big milestone, and I'm glad to be past it, so I can focus on work for now. So it's a big one.
Yeah, it really is. And I think you had mentioned maybe in the post where I read it that it's like raising funds is uncomfortable.
It is. I've met founders, people that love it and really I get it to some point, but for me it's so outside my comfort zone. And I always think like I don't want to ask anyone for money, but having to change your perspective of really what you're doing and why you're raising. So it was definitely outside my comfort zone. I'm glad I've done it. I'm really glad about the investors that came in. I'm humbled, and I think we brought in a lot of expertise that we needed. So it's a good thing, but it's a good milestone to be passed for the first one.
Yeah, no, good for you. So, Jamie, can you tell us a little bit about Innovative Pet Lab?
So we are an at-home testing company that specializes in really finding the root cause of pets' chronic conditions or their symptoms. So, and when I say we're at-home testing company, we're really a solutions company. So our goal is to provide pet parents and vets with results to help guide the course of treatment and really understand why do they have these symptoms and really what to do about it.
And you were recently started. So talk about how you guys kind of got together and started up. I think it was all about a pup named Linda.
And I know everybody needs a good origin story, and I think ours is the best. But of course, I'm jaded in that. So myself and my co-founders, I'm really lucky to have wonderful co-founders: Dr. Betsy Redmond, PhD in clinical nutrition; Dr. Bob David. He's worked in the laboratory industry for, well, he'll say 30 years. I think it's 40. Sorry, Bob. But we actually all worked together at a lab doing human testing. And Dr. Redmond had this dog named Linda. Linda lived to be 18 years young. We used to joke that she was applying for college at 18. But a few years before that, she was having some health issues. And they were the same symptoms that we were seeing in our human patients. And so, like, pet parents and human parents, all of us are, we wanted to figure out why she was having those. And so Dr. Redmond, took her to the vet and they did some things, and it just wasn't going away. And knowing that we could do these type of tests and we could do it on human patients, we looked at the animal world and realized there was a lot of great research being done in animals, but no one was bringing this to market. And it was that aha moment for us to say, we kept saying, somebody should be doing this. Why is nobody doing this? And it became us that were going to do it. So I think all of us were surprised at becoming founders, but it's one of those moments that you hear about when I hear other founder journeys where it's just like it was the right time, it was the right fit, and we just were really passionate that somebody should be doing this type of testing for our pets.
It's amazing. So what sort of technologies are you using now that you're looking to grow and scale? You kind of got your feet under you growing and scaling. What technologies are you finding that are working for you?
So we're kind of a twofold, right? So while we're a lab and we own the lab, we own the process, and we're bringing the types of testing, whether it's the instruments or whether it was the methodologies that we were using in the human space and applying it to the animal space. And I do think that's one of the things that helped set us apart. We were very, I guess, surprised when we entered the animal space that it's a highly unregulated market when it comes to diagnostics and testing. And we came from the human space, which is a very highly regulated environment. And that's all we know. And so we definitely, from a back end perspective at the lab, whether it's the instrumentations that we're using, whether it's the methodologies we developed, like for example, we look at a marker called fecal calprotectin. My co-founders were part of a team that helped bring that marker through the FDA for the human side of it. And so we use that same kind of rigor when it comes to the back end at the lab. Now, the other piece of our business is that we are really, a health tech platform, and that at the end of the day, while a pet parent or the vet is purchasing the test kit, it's just the conduit for a result. And we could run all the markers in the world, but if they don't mean anything to you and you don't know what to do about it, it's kind of like, it's almost wasted information in that, you just have a bunch of information with more questions than answers. And so from a technology standpoint, we built, and we just finished it, new back end technology that synthesizes the data between the symptom scoring, the pet information, the foods they eat, the supplements they take. And we're marrying that with the biomarkers to form really this, think tank research type of platform to get really great at pet health. And so, I always equate it to that we start off with preventative medicine. And as we move our journey along the way, and we get more and more pet information and pet data, really we become that precision medicine tool for pet parents and vets.
Are you using AI currently?
So far, we're using AI from a data standpoint as far as looking at our own data. We have not integrated it yet into our actual platform.
Okay.
Now, and it's more because it's not like, if we are, it's when we are. So to us, we're a little bit old school in the sense that we come from the lab space and we've been doing it a long time. And, we want to see the tangible results. But as someone who uses AI from, my own standpoint or the business perspective or dabbled in it, looking at other things, it does such a great job of making us efficient and doing predictive analytics. And that is where we're looking at it and using it thoughtfully, right? That AI is a great tool, but it is not the one-stop shop. And so how do you use it thoughtfully to train it, to understand it, to get the right kind of data and make those right kind of connections that we're looking for?
Yeah.
And so that's where we're looking at integrating it into the back end right now. So it's something that we're watching closely, we're looking at, and then when we do like some data analytics, we'll use that and see like, okay, did it get the same outputs that I got as a person? And it does, and does it a lot faster, which is very humbling. But yeah, it's definitely something we're looking at.
What is your approach to go to market? So I see that you sell online and it looks like there's relationships possibly with like vets. So what does
Correct.
that look like for you?
Yeah, so we have a few different channels. The core of our foundation, one of our pillars is that it's access to information. So we came to market DDC working with pet parents and consumers that gives them the opportunity to do the test themselves. Because if you think about the traditional model, it's that, in the human world, you can do a lot of home tests, right? You can get a lot of information on yourself, whether it's Everly Well, whether it's going to Quest and their consumer programs, Function Health, which is a great model. I'm actually a Function Health member, and I love that as far as a human DTC side. So you get this access to information, but in the pet world, you realize that most of the information still goes through the vet. And the vet at the end of the day is right now overworked and overstressed. I talked with a lot of vets and I don't envy what they're dealing with right now. The surgeons of pets through COVID, that they are seeing a lot of them every day. They could go from seeing a dog that has a stomach ache to having to put a dog down within 15 minutes. And that's not that's a hard job. So when we came to market, I say all this to say that I knew that was a potential stopping point for a pet parent to get this type of information for them. And so we came to market DTC. However, we want the vet's buy-in, right? Now, one of the things where we differentiate is that we're not a diagnostic. We're a screening tool. And there's a difference. Diagnostics diagnose a disease. There's diagnostic tools of the vet that will diagnose a cancer, will diagnose inflammatory bowel disease. That's a different kind of workup. Where we want to play is these health screening tests, meaning that, my pet's having a little bit of a symptom or no symptoms at all. And I want to just check as a proactive parent or part of yearly care. And that's the space we play in. And so when we came to market, we found that vets actually were receptive to this, that they're seeing a lot of these pets on a daily basis that may not need to be in the office, right? It may just be a diet change or a supplement change. And so we stood up a vet channel to work with them directly. I know it's a very long-winded answer, but I always like to give some context of, where we started and where we're at. We also work in e-com, and we're also moving this year into distribution and retail. So we signed with a couple retailers and a distributor recently, and we actually launched into Canada. So it's been a big year so far.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So there's a lot going on and a lot of it's exciting, but what's the most exciting part of what you're doing right now?
Oh my gosh, that's a big one. Where I'm getting really excited at the moment is our clinical trials and our clinical development. So one of the gaps we came to market that we saw in the pet space is that, foods and supplements, they can make some claims. And in the pet space, they can make a lot of claims that you really can't make in the human space. But most of that comes from what I call self-reported data. For example, I'm a pet parent, I do some symptom scoring, and then I think it improved with symptoms. So I report that score. And then, food or supplement companies make a claim around that. And that's really how it's mostly been done. Or they do some like ingredient testing or some palatability studies. But for us, what was missing was the biomarker data. So if you're saying that your food or supplement can improve GI health, what are you doing to actually validate that? And so we've been working with a lot of brands and validating their claims. So they'll do a baseline test with us. We'll switch them to their food or supplement appropriately. It takes about a week to switch them or 10 days to switch them. And then we do a midpoint check-in with symptom scoring. And then we do a post-test to see improvement. And it's pretty eye-opening that even the brands we work with, I'm so excited for them because they have now this great data set and this actual biomarker data to use to show a baseline and either post 45 days or post 90 days and what that looks like. But also too for the pet parent, it's really helping weed through all this, like, improves longevity, makes you live longer, best for gut health, like it's marketing terms, right? And now these companies have actual facts to back it up. And to me, that gets really exciting. And on the flip side of that, for us, it's the data. So we get to work with all these different pet parents. We get to see all these different breeds, ages, and we're collecting that information because we really want to pinpoint, what does true health mean for, and I want to get to the point where I have a 7-year-old Yorkie that I know should look like this for their gut health. And that just comes with time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, what are the biggest challenges that you foresee in the next 12 months with your growth and in your technology set and adapting and
Yeah.
moving on?
A couple. I mean, I was just on a team call and I laughed. I was like, about a year ago, I couldn't wait till I had these problems that we have now. When you're, way smaller, there's a different host of problems and worries that you have. And then as you grow, you're like, oh, I can't wait till that's my problem. And it's my problem right now, which is good. But there's still things that keep me up at night, and one of them I'd say is we have a lot of opportunity, which is great, but it's being really strategic about our focus. We are still a startup. We still have a small team. We're still doing a lot of things. I say my technical title is CEO, but I mean, I make marketing documents. I jump on client service calls. Like there's a lot that we still do. And as we grow, we need to get more efficient and streamlined with those processes as opposed to like holding it up with duct tape and super glue. So that is a challenge right now, which is a good challenge, but it definitely pulls focus from us sometimes. And there's a lot of things we can do, but we need to decide what's really going to, one, help the pet parent, continue our mission and, move the needle so we can stay in business and keep doing this. That's my biggest one, I would say at the moment, amongst a bunch of other things that are day-to-days keep me up.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you look back and you look at 5 years from now, and especially thinking about how you're collecting and synergizing the data. So obviously you're doing the testing, you're the conduit to your point. What is the next logical step for that data? You've mentioned it, like this is the exact profile of what a healthy 7-year-old Yorkie should be. How are you applying that? How are you disseminating that out?
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's really like over time and over quantity, we'll get better and better at that. We actually recently updated our reference range because when we started, we had X amount and now it's exponentially larger. And with that becomes the knowledge to say, all right, we can fine tune some of these patient populations even better. The other piece of it too is more testing. So right now we focused on gut health. It's where we started.
Right.
And we started there because it was really, in our opinion, it's the root cause of a lot of chronic condition. And it's really where your immunity lives. So your overall health lives. But we're gonna move into other areas. And so we recently launched a stress test that focused on cortisol. That goes hand in hand with gut health. People are like, how does stress and gut? And I always say, do you have a nervous belly? When you get nervous, he's like, oh, I got a nervous belly. What do you think is happening? Cortisol is impacting your gut. And so we just started that. We're looking at other areas and expanding upon our stool testing to other modalities. So I know people get real jealous of my job. I joke like when my kids say, what does mom do? And they're like, well, she owns like a poop lab. And I was like, well, that's pretty accurate actually. And we're looking at things like, getting it through saliva or even urine or whatnot. And so with that will come more testing from a follow-on information and really trying to paint the picture of overall health. And so we'll use one, our skill set from the human space and applying that knowledge into what tests we want to bring to market. But two, what's the data telling us? And that'll become more and more important.
That's amazing. Well, it has been a pleasure, and I really appreciate hearing just this exciting journey as it's beginning. I mean, it's very inspiring, and I appreciate you so much coming on, Jamie.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me share about the company. I get up on tangents. I'm pretty passionate about it, but it's been a lot. So, well, thank you.